back for another round of Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics. And what have I been reading in comic books? Well, boy, it's a lot, and it's going to take a while to get through it all. But recently, caught up again with World's Finest, which, if all of DC was like this series, they'd be killing it everywhere. So, covered the first 3 issues and then read 4 and 5, and that one concludes the story arc that they began with those series. And there's some hokey stuff in it, but it's all cool. It all works and it's fine. There's this moment where they have to defeat a possessed Green Lantern, and they do it by overpowering his will by combining theirs to take over the ring, which taking the ring from him, that part I got, but then all of a sudden, as a result, they merge into one entity. So they do the Super Batman, entity, I guess. And but it makes them more powerful than before, and they take on the main villain. I'll try not to spoil everything, but that's what they do. Under that, because it's both of them, both of their willpower was necessary to defeat Hal Jordan's willpower over his ring. So if anyone does that, I guess they end up merging into one entity. But that's how that played out. And then the final issue, right up to the very end, cliffhangery stuff in that there's a sacrifice must be made in order to defeat this villain. But there's a cool way in and out of it involving Superman, and it's really good. So it's just fun, superheroic adventures, and that's all you need. And it's a great run. It's 5 issues in. This apparently sets up another series called Batman versus Robin. Could have sworn there was already something like that, but this will be a new Batman versus Robin. And it has something to do with what happened here. But apparently, I'm assuming this is the Damian Wayne version of Robin, so this jumps ahead from this time period. Meanwhile, the next issue for World's Finest, they have to go find the original Robin, Dick Grayson, who unfortunately was lost in time in his adventure with Supergirl. She lost her grip on him, and now she has no idea where he went. So that's what they got to do. So they're victorious in their battle with this villain, but in the end, they took some losses. But they'll get him back. So it's right now easily the best out there for superhero books is World's Finest. And if only that approach was followed. Hard to believe it's Mark Waid, but hey, look, you do good work, and that's all there is to it. Another series or character or what have you that just about always delivers, and that's Hellboy over at Dark Horse. Now, the Hellboy story concluded some time ago, but there's quite a few years in between when the series began in the 90s to up to that point, which, if you know the story, it was an experiment the Nazis did in World War II and all this stuff and occult stuff, and that's when he appeared as a little boy. But he's been a part of the BPRD ever since, and there's all these stories throughout those decades that you can explore. So here we have The Bones of Giants, which was originally a novel that Christopher Golden did, and Mike Mignola did the illustrations in it. But this is now in comic book form. But it passes as one of those stories of Hellboy's past. This is what you can see on the cover. He's holding what appears to be the Hammer of Thor. So this involves the Norse gods and all those myths, which is so in keeping with Hellboy as he journeys through the folklore of multiple cultures throughout the Hellboy series, which is one of the cool aspects of it, beyond just the horror aspects of it. And the style and mood is excellent. It's just a well done series, and it really strives for that purpose of maintaining the overall ambiance, if you will, of the character of this story, and doesn't really fall short in quite a few. So that's another one that's got a lot of bang for the buck. That's pretty trustworthy for a Dark Horse with Hellboy. It's split off. It's got the whole Hellboy universe. There's other titles and whatnot. But the main thing about it is it always delivers. Some are better than others, but nevertheless, it does. The artist here was Matt Smith. Now, Matt, not Doctor Who. But this guy, initially, his style was basically just a full-on copy of Mike Mignola, which sort of works because it's what you want to see in a Hellboy series. There's plenty of other artists who were great in other things, but it's like, it's kind of, I wish Mike was doing it. It's just, it evokes that mood and style and stuff. But here he's developed more of his own style, but it's still within keeping. The only other artist, if I can't have Mike Mignola, was Duncan Federico or Fregredo. I'm sorry, I'm probably getting your name wrong. I'm terribly sorry, but he's really good on these if you can't have Mike Mignola. And now here comes Matt Smith with this new style and approach to it that still fits in with the Mike Mignola style, but it's not Mike Mignola, And so it's good. It's all around. It looks good. The mood and atmospherics are very important to enjoying these stories, and some of them, in some ways, that they seem rather subtle and simple, but and yet it's so engrossing and good. So, Hellboy: The Bones of Giants. That was a good one. It's only 4 issues. You can check it out or wait for the collection, however you wish, and have some fun with Hellboy. Now, I do with World's Finest. I'm praising DC a lot there, but that's all I'm praising. Maybe there's some other diamonds in the rough to look into that, but that's the best of the best right now, which there's not a lot of best. Marvel, what do I do about Marvel? I gave up on them some time ago, but every now and then there'll be something that's sort of these side projects and stuff that don't really matter, and that's pretty much the only way to go. But something that took some interest for me because it's a callback to the era of Spider-Man in the 80s was this Symbiote Spider-Man series they've done with Peter David and Greg Land. They're not the greatest thing in the world, but they're just fun, and it explores that whole narrative a little more. Was there enough time for all this stuff to have happened? Probably not, but just for the fun of it, there it is. There's the absurd one with Alien Reality, where it's the Hobgoblin takes over Doctor Strange's power. It explains it, how that's possible, but it's one of those things that it's cool to see the original Hobgoblin. That was a cool story that drew me in back in those days in the 80s. They didn't end it well. They kind of fizzled, didn't quite know what to do with it. He wasn't Ned Leeds, by the way, and all that sort of stuff. But it's still, it's a nostalgia thing, Then of course Black Cat is in there, and that's all. And there's some funny moments. One of the things about Peter David is he kind of gets ripped off in the current era. A lot of people credit Joss Whedon for the type of dialogue, and Peter David did it first, and he does it better. He just does. So it's an interesting little romp. There's some cool things about that Kang the Conqueror is in one with the King in Black series, and he knows the future. And at this point, for the nature of the series, Peter Parker has yet to learn that his black costume is an alien, parasite. That sort of thing. So that's how it's played up. But Kang knows it, but he'll figure it out on his own. Plus, Kang's a villain and a bit of an asshole, so he doesn't care. But so there's fun to it and all that stuff. And so Yeah, I can recommend them. Greg Land, a lot of people give him crap because he admits that he traces photographs or certainly copies them as much as possible. He's a good artist. He doesn't really need to do it. I guess it's for time constraints and stuff. The problem with doing that most prominently in that is consistency. You can do this great panel of a character, and in the next scene their hair is completely different because it didn't look like that in the next photograph. So you can use photo reference. There's nothing wrong with that. But to be completely dependent on it, it's to your detriment, and that's really the overall problem. I don't know if I'm trying to remember if he's one who copied other people's work. Now that's a little bit that's far more serious problem. But I don't remember if he did or not. If he didn't, then apologies. I'm confusing him with someone else. That would be a bit more problem. This I don't really care. Yes, I know he admitted that sometimes he also utilized pornography as. Well, the suits are really skin tight, so. But beyond that, as far as the story and the purposes of this symbiote Spider-Man series, it works fine. So there's one from Marvel that you could check out, should you so desire. Yeah. So finally, Independence. Here's a comic book I got backed and got through an Indiegogo campaign some time ago, and that's Mr. Right. So it's the Right Project, and I think I didn't read it, the original one. There was an image series they did some time ago, and I'm assuming it's the same. I'm not sure. Maybe they redid it for this one, where he's this AI created character attached to a kid. So it's kind of like a Captain Marvel Shazam type thing, but for the modern age. So I backed it and read it. It's good. It's great. And in keeping with, nostalgia type stuff, Tom DeFalco, Ron Friends were a big part of Spider-Man back in those days that I look fondly upon. And so hopefully they'll do more of these. It's a good little romp, and it'll be fun to see what else they can do with it. Both are solid artists in this medium, and certainly trustworthy to look to for comic book entertainment. Ron Friends does very well with this, and would like to see so much more. There's a lot of talent just sitting out there not being utilized that could go a long way to solve a lot of problems the industry has fallen under just for the basics of delivering entertainment. But sadly, that doesn't happen. But these guys are working on this project, so we'll see what else they do. I guess you can look for it on eBay. I don't know if they're selling it elsewhere, or I doubt if it would be like in demand over at Indiegogo or not. But to keep your eye look out for it, and of course, as with these campaigns go forward, a lot of times they'll offer previous work as a bundle for a current one. So maybe that'll be the case, and you can check out the Right Project. Oh yeah. So there you go. That's this edition of Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics. I just don't have the time to read panels for your enjoyment and do voices. Hopefully I can get to that and have the artwork ready to go for something like that next time for Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics.